There was an extraordinary moment. So Elizabeth Warren, you know, every once in a while you get a little bit of vintage Warren comes out and reminds you what she used to be and what she used to focus on. So she has been very aggressive in terms of, you know, the bailout, and she has for a while been very aggressive in questioning the direction of the Fed. She clearly is not a fan of Jerome Powell, the current Fed chair. She got asked one of the dumbest questions I literally have ever seen asked in an appearance on CNBC, when the host asked her whether it would be sufficient for banks to just stress test themselves. Take a listen.
Even those are much smaller, though, than the bigger banks that are more than $250 billion. And we've had a number of those CEOs on the shows in the last few days, Fifth Third, Schwab. They do their own stress testing. Not everyone was behaving in a risk profile and a risk manner that Silicon Valley Bank was.
I'm sorry. I taught school for many, many years, and I did not let my students do their own testing. The testing that is meaningful is the testing that comes from the outside. And it's also the testing where you don't give the answers in advance. The whole point of stress testing is for someone on the outside of the bank to say, what could go wrong here? And to make sure that the bank could withstand those kinds of problems, like a sudden increase in interest rates. That's the point behind the stress testing. And for these banks to say, not to worry, we're testing ourselves, is truly laughable.
I mean, honestly, she probably could have just ended her answer after laughing in that lady's face.
Yeah, that's all that you should. CNBC is truly wild because it's one of those where they every once in a while, sometimes they do really good stuff. I know some people who work there, and when they keep it down the middle, and
shout out to Brian Schwartz,
finance,
who's a great journalist.
Right. Yeah. Brian Schwartz does some of the best reporting in the game in terms of big donor money and how it's all working up there at the top. But man, mask off moment. These banks stress test themselves. Can you imagine saying that? Especially, I couldn't even say that in a normal time. Why would you say it now? In the middle of a potential Lehman moment financial crisis. And you're like, why should these banks be stress tested by what? You know, by the way, they were stress testing themselves in 2007 and 2008. How did that work out? That's the entire point of the goddamn stress test. It's nuts.
Yeah, I love, too, the way she frames it. She's like, well, I've been talking to a lot of CEOs of these banks, and they assure me they're good to go. They do their own stress testing. No need to worry. It's like, oh, my God, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. At the same time, Warren, like I said, has been very aggressive on this. I think she and Katie Porter have been kind of standouts in terms of demanding answers. So there's now been announced there's going to be a review of Silicon Valley Bank, the poor risk management decisions and the bonuses that were handed out on the day of the FDIC regulators coming in and shutting down the bank, the stock sales that occurred in the weeks and months prior to the bank's utter collapse. And Elizabeth Warren put this up on the screen. She has written a letter calling for Jay Powell to recuse himself from the review of SVB. What she says here is Fed Chair Powell's actions to allow big banks like Silicon Valley Bank to boost their profits by loading up on risk directly contributed to these bank failures. For the Fed's inquiry to have credibility, Powell must publicly and immediately recuse himself from this internal review. It's appropriate for Vice Chair for supervision Barr to have the independence necessary to do his job. So she is certainly using this opportunity to push Jerome Powell even further than she already has been in previous interactions with him, some of which we played here.
Let's hope. But unfortunately, in Congress right now, with the way that the Republicans have already been acting, Nancy Mace, I think, was out there being like, why are we pointing fingers in the middle of a crisis?
I'm like,
God. Well, wait. Isn't that the whole point whenever you have a taxpayer bailout? I mean, and look, for all the semantics, you could say whatever you want. Maybe no taxpayer money will be involved. I still actually have yet to see any proof of that. When the full faith and credit of the United States is the only thing holding up your private business, then you're not actually a private business, okay? Here at BP, we stand on our own feet as every other small business literally across the country. We don't need somebody to come in and say, actually, your cameras are worth more than they actually are to make sure that we can float and stay above. They would laugh in your face if you're any other business on earth.
No, they wouldn't laugh in your face. They would send you to prison. Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Call it accounting fraud. Yeah.
Right.
But, if you're friends with Jamie Dimon and you're going to dinners at, bankers' offices with Mark Warner and Crepo and whoever, then you'll get a little bit of different treatment. And I do want to say, with regards to anything happening here, first of all, the Biden administration dropped the ball. If they wanted new regulations put in place, the time to push for it would have been before you offer the bailout. You have to get something from these people, at least to start to demand, like, this is what I want to see on my desk from Congress in response to these actions. So that's number one. Number two, Mark Warner, who was one of the, 16 or 17 Democrats who voted alongside all 50 of the Republicans to deregulate these banks in particular back during the Trump era, he was asked on the Sunday shows, hey, would you rethink that vote? Did you maybe take the wrong approach here? He doubled down. He stood by it. He's like, no, I think they needed a lighter regulatory touch. It's like, really? Even now, as you look at this, you can't admit that this was a disaster and a mistake? No, he's standing by it, Saagar.
Yeah, of course he is. And all of these people, this is part of the problem. We talked about this with Iraq. Iraq is on the mind because we're coming up on the 20th anniversary in a couple of days. And, it's the details get convoluted and the general public knows that things are wrong, but they're not following every single nitty-gritty reason as to why something happens. And then enough time passes before the truth eventually comes out. And then boom, by that time, it's too late. It's kind of like how everybody learned about Glass-Steagall and all of the deregulation during the Clinton administration, mostly from the Michael Lewis book, The Big Short, and from a lot of the books and analysis of the global financial crisis, maybe a year and a half so afterwards. But by that time, Dodd-Frank was basically all law. So by the time it entered into the public consciousness, public policy and everybody had all just kind of moved on. And of course, the media, as we showed with that CNBC clip, they're just carrying water for these people. So it's tough. I don't really know how to fix it.
100%, 100%. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.